The Gothic Line was one of the last major defensive systems organized by German forces during the Italian campaign of World War II, stretching across the northern Apennine Mountains from the Tyrrhenian Sea to the Adriatic coast. Constructed in 1944 under the command of Field Marshal Albert Kesselring, it represented a strategic attempt to slow down the Allied advance toward northern Italy and ultimately into Germany itself. Unlike earlier defensive lines in Italy, such as the Gothic Line, the Gothic Line was designed to exploit the natural ruggedness of the Apennine terrain, integrating fortifications, bunkers, minefields, anti-tank obstacles, and artillery positions into a complex defensive network that made any direct assault extremely difficult and costly. The line ran roughly from the area near Massa and Carrara on the western coast, across the mountainous spine of Italy, to the region of Rimini on the Adriatic side. German engineers and forced laborers worked intensively to reinforce key mountain passes, valleys, and roads, understanding that control of these narrow routes would be decisive in determining the outcome of the campaign. The terrain itself played a crucial role, as steep slopes, dense forests, and limited mobility hindered the use of Allied armored units and forced infantry into slow and exposed advances. Weather conditions further complicated operations, with heavy rains turning the ground into mud and reducing the effectiveness of air support. The Allied offensive against the Gothic Line began in late summer 1944, involving a combination of American, British, Canadian, Polish, and other Allied forces. The strategy was to apply pressure along multiple sectors to break through the German defenses and exploit any weaknesses. Despite initial progress, the advance quickly turned into a series of brutal and attritional battles, particularly in mountainous areas where German troops were able to hold advantageous positions. Fighting was intense and often involved close-quarters combat, with villages, ridges, and hilltops changing hands multiple times. The Germans, although increasingly stretched in terms of manpower and resources, demonstrated strong defensive capabilities and used the terrain to maximize their resistance. One of the most significant engagements associated with the Gothic Line was the Battle of Rimini on the Adriatic front, where Allied forces eventually managed to capture the city after fierce fighting. However, progress in the central and western sectors was much slower, as the mountainous terrain heavily favored the defenders. The Allies were unable to achieve a rapid breakthrough, and the campaign evolved into a prolonged struggle that continued into the winter of 1944-1945. This delay had strategic consequences, as it prevented a swift Allied advance into the Po Valley and allowed German forces additional time to regroup and reorganize further north. Ultimately, the Gothic Line did not completely stop the Allied advance, but it significantly slowed it down, fulfilling its purpose as a defensive barrier. The line was gradually weakened and bypassed through a combination of sustained pressure, tactical adaptation, and logistical superiority on the Allied side. In the spring of 1945, a renewed Allied offensive finally broke through the remaining German defenses, leading to the collapse of German positions in Italy and contributing to the end of the war in Europe shortly thereafter. In historical terms, the Gothic Line stands as an example of how geography, engineering, and defensive strategy can combine to create formidable obstacles in warfare. It also highlights the human cost of such prolonged battles, with heavy casualties on both sides and significant suffering among the civilian population caught in the conflict. Today, the remnants of the Gothic Line, including bunkers and fortifications scattered across the Apennines, serve as a reminder of the intensity of the Italian campaign and the broader struggles of World War II.